The feast brought by the emanated incarnation. Thereupon the venerable Shariputra thought to himself, if these great bodhisattvas do not adjourn before noontime, when are they going to eat? The Lachavi Vimalakirti, aware of what the venerable Sariputra was thinking, spoke to him. Reverend Sariputra, the Tathagata has taught the 8 liberations. You should concentrate on those liberations, listening to the Dharma with a mind free of preoccupations with material things. Just wait a minute, Reverend Sariputra, and you will eat such food as you have never before tasted.
Then the Lachavi Vimalakirti set himself in such a concentration and performed such a miraculous feat that those bodhisattvas and the great disciples were enabled to see the universe called Saravagadashagada, which is located in the direction of the zenith, beyond as many Buddha fields as there are sands in the 42 Ganges rivers. There, the Tathagata, named Gandhahata resides, lives, and is manifest. In that universe, the trees emit a fragrance that far surpasses the fragrances, humans, and the divine. Of all the Buddha fields in the 10 directions, in that universe, even the names disciple and solitary sage do not exist. And the Tathagata, Gandhahata, teaches the Dharma to gathering bodhisattvas only. In that universe, all the houses, the avenues, the parks, and the palaces are made of various perfumes, and the fragrance of the food eaten by those bodhisattvas pervades immeasurable universes.
At this time, the Tathagata Gandhotamakuta sat down with his bodhisattvas to take his meal, and the deities called Ganda Yuhahara, who were all devoted to the Mahayana, served and attended upon that Buddha and his bodhisattvas. Everyone in the gathering at the house of the Vimalakirti was able to see distinctly this universe, wherein the Tathagata Gandhotamakuta and his bodhisattvas were taking their meal. The Lakavi Vimalakirti addressed the whole gathering of the bodhisattvas. Good sirs, is there any among you who would like to go to the Buddha field to bring back some food? But restrained by the supernatural power of Manjushri, none of them volunteered to go.
The Lavachi Vimalakirti said to the crown prince Manjushri, Manjushri, are you not ashamed of such a gathering? Manjushri replied, Noble sir, did not the Tathagata declare those who are unlearned should not be despised? Then the Lavachi Vimalakirti, without rising from his couch, magically emanated an incarnation bodhisattva, whose body was of golden color, adorned with the auspicious signs and marks, and of such an appearance that he outshone the whole assembly. Melissa.
Well, he met. Yeah, I know. Apparently, I was muted. Sorry. The Lakarta Vilamakirte addressed the incarnated Bodhisattva. Noble son, go in the direction of the zenith, and when you have crossed as many Bodhisattva fields As there are sands in the 42 Ganges rivers, you will reach a universe called Sarabakand Uganda, where you will find the Tathagata Grand Hathamakarte taking his meal. Go to him, and having bowed down to his feet, make the following request of him. The Likarte Vimalakirti bows down 100,000 times at your feet, O Lord, and asks for your health. If you have little trouble, little discomfort, and little unrest, if you are strong, well, without complaint, and living in touch with the supreme happiness. Having thus asked after his health, you should request of him. Vimalakirti asked the Lord to give me the remains of your meal, with which he will accomplish the Buddha work in the universe called Sa. Thus, these living beings with inferior aspirations will be inspired with lofty aspirations, and the good name of the Tathagata will be celebrated far and wide.
Melinda, you want to read?
Yes, thank you. At that, the incarnated Bodhisattva said, "Very good," to the Lichavi Vimalakirti, and obeyed his instructions. In sight of all the Bodhisattvas, he turned his face upward and was gone, and they saw him no more.
When he reached the universe Sarvaganda Suganda, he bowed down at the feet of the Tathagata Hottamakuta and said, Lord, the Bodhisattva Vimalakirti, bowing down at the feet of the Lord, greets the Lord, saying, do you have little trouble, little discomfort, and little unrest? Are you strong, well, without complaint, and living in touch with the supreme happiness? He then requests, having bowed down 100,000 times at the feet of the Lord, may the Lord be gracious and give to me the remains of his meal in order to accomplish the Buddha work in the universe called Saha. Then, those living beings who aspire to inferior ways may gain the intelligence to aspire to the great Dharma of the Buddha, and the name of the Buddha will be celebrated far and wide.
At that, the bodhisattvas of the Buddha field of the Tathagata, Gandhahotamakata, were astonished and asked the Tathagata Gandhamokuta, Lord, where is there such a great being as this? Where is this universe Saha? What does he mean by those who aspire to inferior ways? Having thus been questioned by those bodhisattvas, the Tathagata Gandhahotamakutta said, Noble sons, the universe Saha exists beyond many Buddha fields in the direction of Nadir, as there are sands in the 42 Ganges rivers. There, the Tathagata Sakyamuni teaches the Dharma to living beings who aspire to inferior ways, in that Buddha field tainted with 5 corruptions. Thus, the Bodhisattva Vimalakirti, who lives in the inconceivable liberation, teaches the Dharma to the Bodhisattvas. He sends this incarnation Bodhisattva here in order to celebrate my name, in order to show the advantages of this universe, and in order to increase the roots of the virtue of those bodhisattvas.
The bodhisattvas exclaimed, How great must that bodhisattva be himself if his magical incarnation is thus endowed with supernatural power, strength, and fearlessness? The Tathagata said, the greatness of that bodhisattva is such that he sends magical incarnations to all the Buddha fields of the 10 directions. And all these incarnations accomplish the Buddha work for all the living beings in all those Buddha fields.
So I've been curious about the 42 Ganges River, and I came across in the last week 60 Ganges River. So there are lots of tributaries and distributaries, it's called, to the Ganges River. So I just thought it was an imagination thing, but I think it's maybe both, or referring to that. And also, if you're not in an airplane, you don't really know. You might see different parts as being a different river. I'm not sure. So then the Tathagata Gwadhot Tam Akuta poured some of his food, impregnated with all the perfumes, into a fragrant vessel and gave it to an incarnation bodhisattva. And the 90 million bodhisattvas of that universe volunteered to go along with him.
Mhm.
Lord, we also would like to go to that universe Saha to see, honor, and serve the Buddha, Shakyamuni, and to see Vimalakirti and those bodhisattvas.
The Tathagata declared, "Noble sons, go ahead if you think it is the right time. But lest those living beings become mad and intoxicated, go without your perfumes, and lest those living beings of the Saha world become jealous of you, change your bodies to hide your beauty. And do not conceive ideas of corrupt and of contempt and aversion for that universe. Why? Noble sons, a Buddha field is a field of pure space. But the Lord Buddhas, in order to develop living beings, do not reveal all at once. Do not reveal all at once the pure realm of the Buddha. Then the incarnation Bodhisattva took the food and departed with the 90 million bodhisattvas and by the power of Buddha and the supernatural operation of Vimalakirti disappeared from that universe. Saragate House Gandaha and stood in the house of Vimalakirti in the fraction of a second. The Lekiva Vimalakirti created 90 million lions' thrones, exactly like those already there, and the bodhisattvas were seated.
I'm so curious how they came up with all these numbers and
They must mean something.
yeah.
In the story. Then the incarnation Bodhisattva gave the vessel full of food to Vimalakirti, and the fragrance of the food permeated the entire great city of Vaisali, and its sweet perfume spread throughout 100 universes. Within the city of Vaisali, the Brahmins, householders, and even the Lichavi chieftain Kandrachatra, having noticed this fragrance, were amazed and filled with wonder. They were so cleansed in body and mind that they came at once to the house of Vimalakirti, along with all 84,000 of the Lichavis.
Seeing there the bodhisattvas seated on the high, wide, and beautiful lion thrones, They were filled with admiration and great joy. They all bowed down to those great disciples and bodhisattvas and sat down to one side. And the gods of the earth, the gods of the realm of desire, and the gods of the realm of pure matter, attracted by the perfume, also came to the house of Vimalakirti. Then the Lichavi Vimalakirti spoke to the elder Sariputra and the great disciples. Reverence, eat of the food of the Tathagata. It is ambrosia, perfumed by the great compassion. But do not fix your minds in narrow-minded attitudes, lest you be unable to receive its gift.
But some of the disciples had already had the thought, how can such a huge magnitude eat such a small amount of food? Then the incarnation Bodhisattva said to those disciples, do not compare, venerable ones, your own wisdom and the merits with wisdom and the merits of the Tathagata. Why? For example, the 4 great oceans might dry up, but this food would never be exhausted. If all living beings were to eat for an eon, an amount of this food equal to Mount Sumeru in size, it would not be depleted. Why? Issued from inexhaustible morality, concentration, and wisdom, the remains of the food of the Tathagata contained in this vessel cannot be exhausted.
Indeed, the entire gathering was satisfied by that food, and the food was not at all depleted. Having eaten that food, there arose in the bodies of those bodhisattvas, disciples, sakras, brahmas, lokapalas, and other living beings, a bliss, just like the bliss of the bodhisattvas of the universe. Sarva Sukha Pratimandita. And from all the pores of their skin arose a perfume like that of the trees that grow in the universe, Sarva Gandra Sugandha. Then the Likavi Vimalakirti knowingly addressed those bodhisattvas who had come from the Buddha field of the Lord Tathagata Gandhotamakuta. Noble sirs, how does the Tathagata Gandhotamakuta teach his Dharma?
They replied, the Tathagata, do you all get the idea that the food is food, but it's also just wisdom and teaching? They replied, the Tathagata does not teach the Dharma by means of sound and language. He disciplines the bodhisattvas only by means of perfumes. At the foot of each perfume tree sits a bodhisattva, and the trees emit perfumes like this one. From the moment they smell that perfume, the bodhisattvas attain the concentration called source of all bodhisattva virtues. From the moment they attain that concentration, all the bodhisattva virtues are produced in them.
Those bodhisattvas then ask the Lakirti Vimalakirti, how does the Buddha Sakyamuni teach the Dharma? Vimalakirti replied, good sirs, these living beings here are hard to discipline. Therefore, he reaches them with discourses appropriate for the disciplining of the wild and uncivilized. How does he discipline the wild and uncivilized? What discourses are appropriate? Here they are.
This is hell. This is the animal world. This is the world of the Lord of Death. These are the adversities. These are the rebirths with crippled faculties. These are physical misdeeds, and these are the retributions of physical misdeeds. These are mental misdeeds, and these are the retributions of mental misdeeds. This is killing, this is stealing, this is sexual misconduct, this is lying, this is backbiting, this is harsh speech, this is frivolous speech, this is what?
Covetousness. Like
Thank
to
you.
covet. Yeah.
This is malice, this is false view, these are the retributions, this is misalignments, and this is its effect. This is morality, this is hatred, this is sloth, this is the fruit of sloth, this is a false wisdom, and this is the fruit of false wisdom. These are the transgressions of the precepts. This is the vow of personal liberation. This should be done, and that should not be done. This is proper, and that should be abandoned. This is obscuration, and that is without obscuration. This is sin, and that rises above sin. This is the path, and that is the wrong path. This is virtue, and that is evil. This is blameworthy, and that is blameless. This is defiled, and that is immaculate. This is mundane, and that is transcendental. This is compounded, and that is uncompounded. This is affliction, and that is purification. This is life, and that is liberation.
Thus, by means of these varied explanations of the Dharma, the Buddha trains the minds of those living beings who are just like wild horses. Just as wild horses or wild elephants will not be tamed unless the goad pierces them to the marrow, so living beings who are wild and hard to civilize are disciplined only by means of discourses about all kinds of miseries. The Bodhisattva said, "Thus is established the greatness of the Buddha Shakyamuni. It is marvelous how, concealing his miraculous power, he civilizes the wild living beings who are poor and inferior. And the Bodhisattvas who settle in a Buddha field of such intense hardships must have inconceivably great compassion."
So if you scroll back up, I had a question before Anne started reading. Back up to where this is the hell, this is the animal world. And it seems like this entire paragraph is establishing dualistic thought again. It's like, hey, drop dualism, and then here's the way to teach it is only through dualism. I don't understand what's going on there.
Can I give it a try? So there's this thing of skillful means. You've heard of that. And this is how you teach the what does he call them? The wild and the uncivilized. So you do whatever's necessary, I think. And this is what he's saying is necessary for this audience. That's just how.
So this is like a building block? Like this is
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So to get to non-dualism, you have to go through dualism for some.
I think so. You have to do whatever is necessary.
Sure. Okay.
I would think you can't understand what non-dualism is if you have not experienced dualism. That's my thought.
Okay, so are we here?
Sure.
It's my turn?
I think it's mine. I haven't read yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting lots of echo. Is that just me?
No, everybody was echoing. Kim was echoing, and Cassie was echoing. Emily wasn't. Melissa wasn't. I'm not. It's weird. I don't know.
I'm going to try again. Okay. The Lachavi Vimalakirti declared, So it is, good sirs. It is as you say. The great compassion of the bodhisattvas who reincarnate here is extremely firm. In a single lifetime in this universe, they accomplish much benefit for the living beings. So much benefit for living beings could not be accomplished in the universe of the Sarvagana Hashuga, even in 100,000 eons. Why? Good sirs, in the Saha universe, there are 10 virtuous practices which do not exist in any other Buddha field. What are these 10? They are to win the poor by generosity, to win the immoral by morality, to win the hateful by means of tolerance, to win the lazy by means of effort, to win the mentally troubled by means of concentration, to win the falsely wise by means of true wisdom, to show those suffering from the 8 adversaries how to rise above them, to teach the Mahayana to those of narrow-minded attitudes, to win those who have not produced the roots of virtue by means of the roots of virtue, and to develop living beings without interruption through the 4 means of unification. Those who engage in these 10 virtuous practices do not exist in any other Buddha field.
Again, the bodhisattvas asked, how many qualities must a bodhisattva have to go safe and sound to a pure Buddha field after he transmigrates at death away from this Saha universe? Vimalakirti replied, after he transmigrates at death away from this Saha universe, a bodhisattva must have 8 qualities to reach a pure Buddha field, safe and sound. What are the 8? He must resolve to himself, I must benefit all living beings without seeking even the slightest benefit for myself. I must bear all the miseries of all living beings and give all my accumulated roots of virtue to all living beings. I must have no resentment toward any living being. I must rejoice in all bodhisattvas as if they were the teacher. I must not neglect any teachings, whether or not I have heard them before. I must control my mind without coveting the gains of others and without taking pride in gains of my own. I must examine my own faults and not blame others for their faults. I must take pleasure in being consciously aware and must truly undertake all virtues.
If a bodhisattva has these 8 qualities, then he transmigrates at death away from the Saha universe. He will go safe and sound to a pure Buddha field. So I get it that he's not leaving Earth, but this because he's also still working to save all beings. Is that how you all read this? When the Lavachi Vimalakirti and the Crown Prince Manjushri had thus taught the Dharma to the multitude gathered there, 100,000 living beings conceived the spirit of unexcelled perfect enlightenment, and 10,000 bodhisattvas attained the tolerance of the birthlessness of things.
Lesson of destructible and the indestructible. Meanwhile, the area in which the Lord was teaching the Dharma in the garden of Amapali expanded and grew larger, and the entire assembly appeared ringed with a golden hue. Thereupon, the Venerable Ananda asked the Buddha, Lord, this expansion and enlightenment of the garden of Amarapala and this golden hue of assembly, what do these auspicious signs portend? The Buddha declared, Amanada, these auspicious signs portend that the Lakirti Vimalakirti and the Crown Prince Malajushi, attended by great multitude, are coming into the presence of the Tathagata.
At the moment, the Lichavi Vimalakirti said to the Crown Prince Manjushri, Manjushri, let us take these many living beings into the presence of the Lord, so that they may see the Tathagata and bow down to him. Manjushri replied, Noble sir, send me if you feel the time is right.
Thereupon the Lichavi Vimalakirti performed the miraculous feat of placing the entire assembly, replete with thrones, upon his right hand, and then, having transported himself magically into the presence of the Buddha, placing it on the ground. He bowed down at the feet of the Buddha, circumambulated him to the right 7 times with palms together, and withdrew to one side. The Bodhisattva who had come from the Buddha field of the Tathagata, Ganhotamakuta, descended from their lion thrones and, bowing down at the feet of the Buddha, placed their palms together in reverence and withdrew to one side. And the other bodhisattvas, great spiritual heroes, and the great disciples descended from their thrones likewise, and having bowed at the feet of the Buddha, withdrew to one side. Likewise, all those Indras, Brahmas, Lokapalas, and gods bowed at the feet of the Buddha and withdrew to one side.
Then the Buddha, having delighted those bodhisattvas with greetings, declared, Noble sons, be seated upon your thrones. Thus, commanded by the Buddha, they took their thrones. The Buddha said to Sariputra, Sariputra, did you see the miraculous performance of the bodhisattvas, those best of beings? I have seen them, Lord. What concept did you produce toward them? Lord, I produced the concept of inconceivability toward them. Huh. Their activities appeared inconceivable to me to the point that I was unable to think of them, to judge them, or to even imagine them. Thus, the Venerable Ananda asked the Buddha, Lord, what is this perfume, the likes of which I have never smelled before? The Buddha answered, Ananda, this perfume emanates from all the pores of the bodhisattvas.
Shariputra added, Venerable Ananda, this same perfume emanates from all our pores as well. Ananda, where does the perfume come from? Shariputra, the Lakavi Vimalakirti obtained some food from the universe called Sarvaganda Sugandha, the Buddha field of the Tathagata, Gandhotamakuta, and this perfume emanates from the bodies of all of those who partook of that food. Then the Venerable Ananda addressed the Lakavi Vimalakirti. How long will this perfume remain?
A rabbi was talking to me once about human smell, and we kind of live in a smellness world where there's no smell, but like in the temple where everyone would be together, there would be all these body odors, and perfume was a really important thing, and smells, and it's almost like we don't have it anymore. So it's not part of our we try to be smell-less, don't we? You know, even if you said to someone you smell, that would be like a negative thing.
I smell like deodorant.
Yeah.
Perfume.
Yes,
Yeah.
smell like sandalwood.
Yeah, people still use perfume. They don't like to
Yeah.
smell body odor, but they like to smell.
Yeah.
Vimalakirti, until it is digested, Ananda, when will it be digested? Vimalakirti, it will be digested in 49 days, and its perfume will emanate for 7 days more after that. But there will be no trouble of indigestion during that time. Furthermore, Reverend Ananda, if monks who have not entered destiny for the ultimate eat, eat this food, it will be digested when they enter that destiny. When those who have entered destiny for the ultimate eat this food, it will not be digested until their minds are totally liberated. If living beings who have not conceived the spirit of unexcelled perfect enlightenment eat this food, it will be digested when they conceive the spirit of unexcelled perfect enlightenment. If those who have conceived the spirit of perfect enlightenment eat this food, it will not be digested until they have attained tolerance. Or here it seems more and more like the food is the Dharma. And if those who have attained tolerance eat this food, it will be digested when they have become bodhisattvas one lifetime away from Buddhahood. Reverend Ananda, it is like the medicine called delicious, which reaches the stomach but is not digested until all poisons have been eliminated. Only then is it digested. Similarly, Reverend Ananda, this food is not digested until all the poisons of the afflictions have been eliminated. Only then is it digested.
Then the Venerable Ananda said to Buddha, Lord, it is wonderful that this food accomplishes the work of the Buddha. So it is, Ananda. It is as you say, Ananda. There are Buddha fields that accomplish the Buddha work by means of bodhisattvas, those that do so by means of lights, those that do so by means of the tree of enlightenment, those that do so by means of the physical beauty and the masks of the Tathagata, those that do so by means of religious robes, those that do so by means of food, those that do so by means of water, those that do so by means of gardens, those that do so by means of palaces, those that do so by means of mansions, those that do so by means of magical incarnations, those that do so by means of empty space, and those that do so by means of lights in the sky. Why is it so, Ananda? Because by these various means, living beings become disciplined. Similarly, Ananda, there are Buddha fields that accomplish the Buddha work by means of teaching living beings words, definitions, and analogies such as dreams, images, the reflection of the moon in the water, echoes, illusions, and mirages, and those that accomplish the Buddha work by making words understandable. Also, Ananda, there are utterly pure Buddha fields that accomplish the Buddha work for the living beings without speech, by silence, inexpressibility, and unteachability. Ananda, among all the activities, environments, and practices, oops, lost it. by silence, inexpressibility, and unteachable. Ananda, among all the activities, enjoyments, and practices of the Buddhas, there are none that do not accomplish the Buddha work, because all disciplined living beings. Finally, Ananda, the Buddhas accomplish the Buddha work by means of the four Marias and all the 84,000 types of passion that afflict living beings.
That's a lot of passion.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
and it's like the where it really comes from. It's like the Buddhas accomplish the Buddha work by means of the four maras, not by, lofty desires and thoughts and wisdom. It's by the four maras.
Which are the four
Can we
maras? Someone remember?
what are the four Maras? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Mara wasn't Mara the temptress? She was.
Yeah.
I don't know what the four Maras are, but we could ask the internet. Nobody else knows.
On the night of Buddha's on the night, oh geez, Christ. On the night, I don't know. I'm echoing. No, am I echoing? No. Emily, when you mute, I don't echo. But on the night of Buddha's enlightenment, Mara came a number of times, and it could have been four. But Mara also came to Buddha throughout his life and tempted him and said, why are you, making these choices and so forth. And then the 84,000 types of passion, of course, are the craving for different things. So that's our teacher.
I looked up the four Maras, symbolizing the destruction emotions of greed and hatred. And the next one representing attachment to illusion of the permanent self or the conditioned existence. The Mara of death embodying impermanence. And the Mara of the Son of gods, personifying distractions and sensual pleasures.
That's interesting. So then I'm wrong thinking that it's the Mara who visited Buddha.
Wasn't that one of them? Or all of them?
Is Mara kind of like the Trinity, sort of, but except in four parts, Is that, maybe that's
I don't know.
Thank you. Ananda, this is a Dharma door called Introduction to All the Buddha Qualities. The Bodhisattva who enters this Dharma door experiences neither joy nor pride when confronted by a Buddha field adorned with a splendor of all noble qualities, and experiences neither sadness nor aversion when confronted by a Buddha field apparently without that splendor, but in all cases produces a profound reverence for all the Tathagatas. Indeed, it is wonderful how all the Lord Buddhas, who understand the equality of all things, manifest all stories of Buddha fields in order to develop living beings.
Ananda, just as the Buddha fields are diverse as to their specific qualities, but have no difference as to the sky that covers them, so, Ananda, the Tathagatas are diverse as to their physical bodies, but do not differ as to their unimpeded gnosis. Ananda, all the Buddhas are the same as to the perfection of their Buddha qualities. That is, their forms, their colors, their radiance, their bodies, their marks, their nobility, their morality, their concentration, their wisdom, their liberation, their gnosis and vision of liberation, their strengths, their fearlessness, their special Buddha qualities, their great love, their great compassion, their helpful intentions, their attitudes, their practices, their paths, the links of their lives, their teachings of the Dharma, their development and liberation of all living beings, and their purification of Buddha fields. Therefore, they are all called Samyak Sambuddhas, Tathagatas, and Buddhas.
Ananda, were your life to last an entire eon, it would not be easy for you to understand thoroughly the extensive meaning and precise verbal significance of these three names. Also, Ananda, if all living beings of this billion world galactic universe were like you, the foremost of the learned and the foremost of the endowed with memory and incantations, and were they to devote an entire eon, they would still be unable to understand completely the exact and extensive meaning of the three words. Samya Kamasa Buddha, Tathagata, and Buddha. Thus, Ananda, the enlightenment of the Buddhas is immeasurable, and the wisdom and the eloquence of the Tathagatas are inconceivable.
Then the Venerable Ananda addressed the Buddha. Lord, from this day forth I shall no longer declare myself to be the foremost of the learned. The Buddha said, Do not be discouraged, Ananda. Why? I pronounced you, Ananda, the foremost of the learned, with the disciples in mind, not considering the bodhisattvas. Look, Ananda, look at the bodhisattvas. They cannot be fathomed even by the wisest of men. Ananda, one can fathom the depths of the ocean, but one cannot fathom the depths of the wisdom, gnosis, memory, incantations, or eloquence of the bodhisattvas. Ananda, you should remain in equanimity with regard to the deeds of the bodhisattvas. Why? Ananda, these marvels displayed in a single morning by the Lakavi Vimalakirti could not be performed by the disciples and solitary sages who have attained miraculous powers, were they to devote all their powers of incarnation and transformation during 100,000 millions of eons.
Then all those bodhisattvas from the Buddha field of the Tathagata Gaudhotamakuta joined their palms in reverence, and saluting the Tathagata, Shakyamuni addressed him as followed. Lord, when we first arrived in this Buddha field, we conceived a negative idea, but we now abandon this wrong idea. Why? Lord, the realms of the Buddha and their skill in liberative art are inconceivable. In order to develop living beings, they manifest such and such a field to suit the desire of such and such a living being. Lord, please give us a teaching by which we may remember you when we have returned to Sarvag Sughanha.
Melissa, you're muted.
Sorry, I don't know how that happened. Thus, having been requested, the Buddha declared, Noble sons, there's a liberation of bodhisattvas called destructible and indestructible, and you must train yourselves in this liberation. What is it? Destructible refers to compounded things. Indestructible refers to the uncompounded. But the Bodhisattva should neither destroy the compounded nor rest in the uncompounded.
Not to destroy compounded things consist in not losing the great love, not giving up the great compassion, not forgetting the omniscient mind generated by high resolve, not trying in the positive development of living beings, not abandoning the means of unification, giving up body and life in order to uphold the holy Dharma, never being satisfied with the roots of virtue already accumulated, taking pleasure in skillful dedication, having no laziness in seeking the Dharma, being without selfish reticence in teaching the Dharma, sparing no effort in seeing and worship the Tathagatas, being fearless in voluntary reincarnations, being neither proud in success nor bowed in failure, not despising the unlearned, and respecting the learned as if they were the teacher himself, making reasonable those whose passions are excessive, taking pleasure in solitude, without being attached to it, no longer longing for one's own happiness, but longing for the happiness of others, conceiving of trace, meditation, and equanimity as if they were the Avisi hell, yes, conceiving of the world as a garden of liberation, considering beggars to be spiritual teachers, considering the giving away of all possessions to be the mean of realization Buddhahood, considering immoral being to be saviors, considering the transcendences to be parents, considering the aids to enlightenment to be servants, never ceasing accumulation of the roots of virtue, establishing the virtues of all Buddha fields in one's own Buddha field, offering limitless pure sacrifices to fulfill the auspicious marks and signs, adorning body, speech, and mind by refraining from all sins, continuing in all reincarnation during immeasurable eons, while purifying body, speech, and mind, avoiding discouragement throughout spiritual heroism when learning of the immeasurable virtues of the Buddha, wielding the sharp sword of wisdom to chastise the enemy afflictions, knowing well the aggregates, the elements, and the sense media in order to bear the burdens of all living beings. I will stop there.
That was very brave of you. Blazing with energy to conquer the host of demons, seeking knowledge in order to avoid pride, being content with little desire in order to uphold the Dharma, not mixing with worldly things in order to delight all people, being faultless in all activities in order to conform to all people, producing the super knowledges to actually accomplish all duties of benefit to living beings, acquiring incantations, memory, and knowledge in order to retain all learning, understanding the degrees of people's spiritual faculties to dispel the doubts of all living beings, displaying inconceivable miraculous feats to teach the Dharma, having irresistible speech by acquiring unimpeded eloquence, tasting human and divine success by purifying the path of 10 virtues, establishing the path of the pure states of Brahma by cultivating the 4 immeasurables, inviting the Buddhas to teach the Dharma, rejoicing in them and applauding them, thereby obtaining the melodious voice of a Buddha, disciplining body, speech, and mind, thus maintaining constant spiritual progress, being without attachment to anything and thus acquiring the behavior of a Buddha, gathering together the order of the Bodhisattvas to attract beings to the Mahayana, and being consciously aware at all times not to neglect any good quality. Noble sons, a bodhisattva who thus applies himself to the Dharma is a bodhisattva who does not destroy the compounded realm. It's true, it's 8 o'clock. So maybe we should leave the uncompounded until next time, next week. And we could take our 15 minutes of self-reflection or outer reflection. So does anyone have anything they'd like to share about this fantastical movie?
I can share. I just have a little paragraph because I had to step away and then come back. But really, it's just more wonderings about the wanderings. I wonder about all these other places beyond our own realm, other universes, other beings, other ways of living, to the point that they each seem to have a way to enlightenment that is unique to where they are. Yet, when told about other universes or places with different ways of being, they immediately want to visit there. In all of this, curiosity does not seem to be a bad thing. Is there a dualism to curiosity? What would it be? Not curiosity? Would that be acceptance? Would it be the desire or ability to stay in one place or condition of existence? And what is the purpose of all the different universes?
Yeah, they kind of talked about billions and billions of them this last time.
Mhm.
I didn't. I really just kind of wrote a paragraph myself and then did some copying and pasting of uh, some of the lists of things.
Mm.
But started with the first stage of those living in hell to discern the difference of the self-centered dream of evil and good. Then the misdeeds and the retributions of misdeeds. It's not just what you do, but the ripples that you cause. They also count. The 10 Commandments, but without the thou shalt nots, just laying them out there. And I found it, always find it interesting, like this little overlap between this science fiction game of D&D, if anybody's ever played that before, and the character classes, whether you're good or evil, is defined by whether you act self-centeredly or whether you act for the benefit of the group. And it wasn't anything other than that. And so I've always liked that little overlap.
Mm.
So it is, Ananda. So I'm quoting here from our book. There are the Buddha fields that accomplish the Buddha work by means of the bodhisattvas. Those that do so by means of light, those that do so by means of the tree of enlightenment, and those that do so by the means of physical beauty and the marks of the Tathagata. Vimalakirti says, great compassion of the bodhisattvas who reincarnate here is extremely firm. So when he's talking about compassion, I came across this today when I was doing some other research, and the definition of compassion, a calm part is with, and passion is suffering. And so to say someone has compassion is to say they're with suffering, that they're not that they have suffering, but they're willing to be with suffering. And to have compassion is to be with suffering, and to take is in taking action to relieve it. So it's that taking action to relieve it that is the activation there, because it's the action. And then there was the whole big paragraph about the 10 virtuous practices. And so I went through there and just kind of got them by name of generosity, morality, tolerance, effort, concentration, true wisdom, to rise above one's own adversities, to expand our narrow-mindedness, and the roots of virtue, and uninterrupted unification. And then the other part I had was just that definition of the 4 maras that I wasn't aware of, with defilements of emotions. What was it? There was a destructive emotions, greed, like greed and hatred, attachment to the illusion of the permanent self, embodying impermanence as the end of opportunities for practice, and personifying the distractions.
Anybody else want to speak up or share anything?
I'd like to say something. So it doesn't relate to the drawing that I did, but something I'm thinking about is that this pretends to be all at the time of Buddha, and yet this Mahayana teaching of the fantastical stuff is maybe much later. We don't attribute it. It's not in the Pali Canon, but yet, it's kind of neat that it takes place at the time of the Buddha, but it wasn't known for another 1,000 years or something. And some people say Mahayana goes back to the time, but they just didn't have the imagination to express it or something. So it's just kind of interesting to me to think about, is this really the teaching of the Buddha, or is this something that came later? And I know scholars are discussing that about Mahayana. So that's all.
Mm. Okay, well, seems like it. It seems like it for this evening. Yeah.
Until next week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week, next Monday. So everyone have a good week.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Hey.
Thanks to everyone who's here.
Yeah, good night.
And good night, Donna. We haven't heard from you, but good night.
Good night.